Imagine this. You survived the year. I don't have a pop filter on. Oh my gosh. You guys don't want to be hearing pop, pop, pop. Okay, but wow. Cool, amazing start. Imagine this. You just barely survived the lemon of a year, 2020. Seems Sisyphean, impossible, unexplainable. Like, how could anybody do that? In a year just filled with so many uncertainties, unknowns, unexpected surprises, and events. So imagine that you finish this year and it's January 1st and you're like, 2021 is going to be a new year. This is going to be new year, new me. That's what people say, right? New year, new me. It's never really too big of a fan of that, but after 2020, I somewhat incorporated that idea into my life because I was so over the year of 2020 that I had to refresh myself. I had to cleanse my brain from the hardships and, frankly, just the utter stupidity of that year. And harshness, the legitimate, just that year was rough for everyone. And we're going to wrap this up. We're going to get into the podcast soon, but it's January 1st. And now you have to deal with January. Who likes January? I personally don't know anyone who likes January. If you do like January, please comment down below because you're a little bit on edge if you like January. I feel like, but you have to get through this month and you're like, okay, blah, 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 I do that. And then it's February. And it's just January, but somehow worse. And that's where I am right now. So just want to tell you guys that story that we are stuck in the month of February. I don't know if episode 5 of this podcast was recorded in February. I don't think it was. So this is new month. New month, definitely not new me. This is the exact same me that has been experiencing both January and the first couple of days of February. And that's not a person that I aspire to be. Okay, now that we got that gibberish over, welcome to the Henry Polite Does Music Things official, unofficial, official podcast title. I don't even know. The title at this point has to be official, but it is still considered the unofficial title. That was still like the first podcast I ever released. I was like, I don't know what I'll call this. I'll just call it the unofficial podcast title. And, well, I have not thought of any other creative title since then, and that was during the summer. So, voila. This is episode 6, and it is January 9th. Sorry, January 9th. I literally just did my spiel about how it's February 9th, 2021, at the time of recording this. Last podcast, at the time of recording this, has 40 views. And I know 40 views, that's like 40 people. Let's say people are watching it 2 times in a row for whatever reason. Like, okay, that's probably not really a lot of people. But I have 11 subscribers on my YouTube channel. So I think that was pretty good. That is the highest watched Henry Polite podcast, Henry Polite Does Music Unofficial blah 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 things podcast in the history of ever. And while counting this episode, there's only been 6, so is that a super big accomplishment? Accomplishment. No, not really. In the grand scheme of things, no, not really. But you know what they say? They say, baby, baby, baby steps. I have no shout outs or really any special events. Nothing too important to get said in the beginning of the podcast, so I think we should just jump right in. If you enjoy the show, please like. If you don't enjoy the show, preferably just keep it to yourself and don't do anything, or you can shoot me an email. Link in description. And if you're listening to this on one of your streaming platforms of choice, well then I just love you a tinge bit more than the people that watch us on YouTube, because you are someone very special in a good way. I truly appreciate you listening to this show on a streaming platform. And if you're listening to this show solely on a streaming platform, you'll know that last episode 5, anyone can check this out, by the way. This is just a lemon. I tried to do an ad, an Anchor ad, and it frankly, it made me put it in the very beginning of the episode. So the episode started with, okay, now let's head into our ad segment. Yeah, so that was not great, but 6 episodes in and we're still getting the hang of being a podcast host, even though I've been hosting podcasts since 9th grade, and I am now a junior in high school. 3 Guys on a Couch podcast, and I don't know how much of a podcast that is, more than a video that gets released every 4 months, but tomato, that's what they say. So let's jump right in. We always start out with what's new in music. If you listened to the last podcast, then I talked about Olivia Rodrigo, because she was the biggest star in the world, breaking Spotify records with her single Driver's License. If you haven't heard of it, well, it's an incredibly popular pop song that was somewhat unexpected, but also very expected. The fame was somewhat unexpected, but also very expected. There's been new developments and the drama and what teenagers like to say, the tea surrounding Olivia Rodrigo's Driver's License. Last podcast, I specifically had a pretty big gripe with the line, of course she's with the blonde girl, or of course he's with the pretty blonde girl. I don't even, what the freak was it? I didn't say, but there's this blonde girl that gets mentioned. And this blonde girl, the drama is High School Musical people, they dated, guy leaves, guy goes to girl, and that girl is the blonde girl. The guy, his name is... what is his name? Joshua. Okay, so January 14th, 1 week after Olivia's Driver's License was released, he released Lie, Lie, Lie. And so the title kind of explains it. Lie, lie, lie. And whether he is talking about Olivia Rodrigo, who knows, but we can all just assume, right? February 1st, guys, February 1st. This is not what's old in music. This is what's freaking new in music. It is February 9th. Do you know how math works? That was 8 days ago. 8 days ago. 1 plus 8 is 9. This is recent. This is recent developments. So this blonde girl, Sabrina, that's her real name, she released Skin. This got over 10 million streams in the first 48 hours. So all of these people in this love triangle, it's not called a love triangle, it's just a messed up love, just love thing, love shape, is getting a lot of attention from the media. Sabrina Carpenter. I listened to both of these new songs, Lie, Lie, Lie and Skin from Sabrina. I've watched interviews with both of them. And the songs, in my opinion, definitely not as well made as a Driver's License. Overall, they were just not as good. And the views and the reception also show that other people think. That Skin and Lie, it was just kind of boring pop songs, and people love those. But Driver's License at least was like, there was some spunk, and it was super just drenched in emotion. How real that emotion is, no idea, but it was drenched in it. It was freaking sauteed in it. It's just this chicken breast. Do chicken breasts saute? Don't take that out of context. I'm going to take that out of context. Oh, I'm going to take that out of context and put it on Teddy P's story. Oh, my brain is just spot on. Not to be too full of myself, but both the songs were... Lie was definitely the worst one, I thought. His acting was bad. Joshua's, right? Yeah. Didn't think he was a good actor. I didn't think the song was interesting. And then Sabrina's was just not interesting. The music video was better than Lie, though. I thought there's some good parts. And, emotional, like, Skin is about people getting under the skin. And let me tell you some more about that. To update you guys about the situation, this definitely isn't a conventional Henry Polite Does Henry Polite Things podcast unofficial title subject, but I thought it was important because last time I talked about it, I want to keep continuing the story and the drama surrounding this. Let me make sure the camera's on. Anyways, back to the topic. This is the freaking drama. So Skin, this is what Sabrina said about Skin. Because it was like all of these songs are coming out way too close to each other. It takes a while to freaking write and produce a song. So she said, direct quote, I happened to be in the studio a couple weeks ago. Like I really was just there that day, in the moment, and I wrote the song. She was in the studio and the word gets out and all the rumors get out and people are getting under her skin about this and all these rumors. Whether in the song Driver's License the blonde girl was the Sabrina chick, who knows? But the point is that fans are getting under Sabrina's skin. And basically the interview was everyone around Sabrina was just freaking out. Everything was crazy in her life from these rumors, and she felt the need to write a song about it or about people getting under her skin. So, frankly, here's my thoughts, just to quickly wrap this up because I don't want to talk about this too much. This is just a total publicity, like, genius. This is like marketing, just gold. You know how people say, like, any attention is good attention? Like, perfect example. This is what I always say. PewDiePie saying the N-word. I legitimately subscribe to PewDiePie because he said, not solely because he said the N-word, but that's how I was watching drama channels about it, and I was like, oh, let's check it out. And then I subscribed to him. Same thing with this. Who knows if these people actually dated Olivia and Joshua? Like, who knows? Frankly, it's just rumors. And maybe they did, and maybe they were both like, let's just cut it off. This isn't good. It was fun, whatever. But let's just make songs about this and capitalize on it, and it will build tons of hype and drama, and people just eat that up. People love drama. Most people don't see through it. And this is not conventional drama because, it's people releasing songs and stuff. But people usually don't see it and they just eat it up. That's why reality TV is so good. That's why Survivor is so good. It's why... What's the show with the house? Big Brother. I'm actually not really a big fan. I'm a big fan of Big Brother and Afra. Sorry, what? That's why all these just drama. Life of the Kardashians, blah, blah, blah. The list continues. People love it. So if it's just a big conspiracy and it's all just fake, I would not be surprised because it is genius marketing. And that is shown by driver's license breaking records on Spotify. Because there's so many. Oh, she is the victim. She is the victim and she is sad and she is a teenager. People love that stuff. And they will go over there and they will support her. And then they will go over to Joshua's video called Lie, Lie, Lie and be like, you are the bad guy. And that might not sound good, but they are still watching the video and he is still money is still being made. So that's kind of my take on all of it. But in the end, it's like, drama's stupid and it's just like, I'm over it. What's new in music? Here is a new segment. Not a new segment. On February 9th. Wait, is today February 9th? What the balls? Okay, maybe not February 9th. Maybe I got that date wrong, but Phoebe, I think it's Phobe Bridgers. I don't know. This chick destroyed her guitar during her Saturday Night Live debut. So she's performing her debut on Saturday Night. Whoa. So she's performing her debut on Saturday Night Live. And she freaking starts smashing her guitar at the end. It's like, you're not Jimi Hendrix, dude. Play the clip. Okay, and the clip just played, I guess. Okay, so you saw it. I don't know if that's copyright. I'll play like the 3 seconds of her smashing her guitar. She can't even break the guitar, but that's... I don't want to get into weird, like, sexist territory. It's like, no, women can't break guitars. No, I'm not doing that. But there's a lot of drama that she broke this guitar. She slammed the guitar. And when I watched it, I thought it seemed a little just dumb. You know, it didn't feel necessary, like, at all whatsoever. It felt forced, which I'm pretty sure it was a pre-planned move. I'm very sure that was a pre-planned move. And if people aren't saying it's a pre-planned move, well, it probably was a pre-planned move. But it's in this thing, and there's these people in skeleton suits. There's a photo, you know, wherever I put the photo, if you're listening to this on YouTube. There's all these people in skeleton suits. I thought it was a little weird. The music itself was fine. You know, I don't want to critique the music too much. It's not what this is about right now. It's about she freaking smashed her guitar. And so this chick, she just smashes the guitar. Boom. Okay, the guitar just, well, it doesn't break, but sparks. All the good stuff. And then freaking David Cosby on Twitter, there's all this beef. He called her pathetic. It's just like, wow. If you don't know who David Crosby is, that is old rock man. Very incredibly old. He referred to Eddie Van Halen's music as not for him but good, apparently. I have no source on that. I read that in an article, and I did not do the research to find the source. So you can go searching for that, but I don't have a direct source to that quote. But David also said, "It's what you do if you can't write." This is all on Twitter. Flea responded, "Hendrix couldn't write? Question mark. I just thought I was so good. I was like, yeah, he's being a little bit of a B-word. Like, I agree that it's kind of dumb, and I understand why people would be annoyed. it is a musical instrument and people are destroying, but also in rock history, that has happened before. I'm not going to go around and throw my saxophone at the ground, but it's just like different for a rock guitar or just guitar. And I understand why David is like, well, they're precious instruments that shouldn't be broken, and anyone that respects them wouldn't do that. And I totally get it, but I think his reaction was a little unnecessary. But I thought the clip was funny, and go check it out. Or go check out her music. Whatever you want to do. Hello, and welcome to this sponsored segment of our show. Today our sponsor is going to be the Anchor Podcast. This is what I use to host this podcast onto multiple platforms. It's free to use, and there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Personally, I always use Audacity, which is also free to record my podcast. But if you don't want to figure out how to use Audacity, Anchor is super easy to use. Here's my favorite part. Anchor will distribute my podcast so it can be heard anywhere that, podcasts are hosted. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. Also, I haven't set this up yet, but you can make money if you use Anchor. If you just set up the money system in Anchor, and it will make everything work for you. I actually love this app. It's really useful. You just, boom, put in your podcast, and it works. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Anchor.fm to get started. With that, everyone go download Anchor if you want to make a podcast. Let's continue the episode. And that is the end of what's new in music. Speaking of the month of February, which is what I've noticed, a recurring theme in this episode of Henry Pole Does Music Things Unofficial podcast title. The month of February happens to be Black History Month. And you might be like, okay, that's very cool. You are a white teenage boy. Why do you care about Black History Month? I listen to a lot of jazz, and obviously jazz is fundamentally Black history. Here's some good musicians to listen to who are all Black. George Duke, John Coltrane, Alice Coltrane, Art Blakey, and the Jazz Messengers. What's some more? Miles Davis, definitely. Cannonball Adderley. John Coltrane, if you want jazz, let's just go to there's incredible jazz. Alice Coltrane, that's a lot of stuff that's more of a deep cut, I guess. There's solo harp records you can listen to. Some good jazz records. Good stuff. Art Blakey. Blakely? I don't even know. Blake. I got yelled at because I pronounced his name wrong. Art Blakey. Blakey. I don't freaking know. And the Jazz Messengers, he's the drummer. Their band is so good. So good. Oh my gosh. It swings, dude. It's these drummers' bands that are always so good. George Duke, he is a keyboard player. Super good and just soulful and funky. Herbie Hancock, that's another person that's alive. George Duke is unfortunately not alive anymore, but I've seen clips of him since this is Teddy Pete just doing these crazy synth solos. George Duke just going like on the mini Moog. He's just jamming out, and it is so cool. And there's a lot of plenty things you can listen to from George Duke. There's some really good YouTube videos, too, of concerts of him. I've used music of his before in Mr. Watermelon's channel, just in the background. Like Castle Minor Z videos, if someone is listening to this who has any idea what I'm talking about right now. Those videos, the intro, go something like that. That is literally a George Duke live concert at like Montreal Jazz Festival 2018 or something. You know what was recent? The Super Bowl halftime show. This is the Henry Polai Does Music Things podcast style. This is not the Henry Polai Talks About Football show. I don't think there is a podcast show where that exists. Henry Polai, why am I referring to myself in third person? Henry Polai happens to really not like football or sports in general because, well, I don't really have the time. And I've just never liked sports. I've never been good at really anything physical. And you might be like, well, playing instruments is physical for your hands, I guess. It's much more mental than physical. But we actually should get to that conversation later. That's a fun conversation, the mental versus physical dexterity that you need to play music on any musical instrument. But halftime show, it was the weekend, and I thought it was good. That about sums up my thoughts. I can't play it, just, and I know it would get copyrighted to death if I played it. These episodes are not monetized in any way. Oh, besides the Anchor ad, which will hypothetically be somewhere in this episode. But that's all about I can say. It was good. The sets were just insane. There was one part, of course, it's the Super Bowl. It's the most blown up thing ever. But there's this part where he went into this gold room thing. And he's just running around. He's like holding the camera. He's like, ugh. And I saw a meme today, and it's jazz musicians looking for gigs in 2021. And it's just like him got like, ugh. Made me a little nauseated. But whoa, I think the camera just turned off. Okay. How about wraps up the main things I have for just like scheduled points to the podcast. Been trying to try that out, have this notebook and have kind of guide tones. I was going to say leading tones. Ugh, music theory is killing me. AP music theory, love it. I've been trying to have these guide tones just to have a bit more of a structured show. Naturally, when it's in a pod and when it's an environment like this, I can just talk to a camera for 40 minutes about anything. Like, I will find something to talk about. It's weird. I don't know why I can't talk to people comfortably, but for some reason I can talk to a camera fine for the past 40 minutes straight, or hours straight, or 8 hours straight. I've also done that. I just find it very comfortable, and I don't know. I know some people really hate it, but maybe those people love talking to real life people. That's the balance. Frankly, talking to real life people is arguably much more of an important skill, and it's not like I'm incapable of doing it. I'm just typically an awkward person. If you couldn't tell. Now, earlier I mentioned the physical versus the mental relationship of practicing music, and I want to talk about this because frankly I've been thinking about it a lot. I'm playing a lot of piano and saxophone. Not really recently, just throughout my life. Piano not so much, but saxophone since like 7th grade. Practiced an hour before this. I would like to practice another hour after this. And just, it's crazy. Where do I go with this? On piano, my hands consistently get really, really cold on piano while playing piano. And believe it or not, it's just very incredibly uncomfortable to play piano with really cold hands. You know, when you're out in the snow, it's chilly, it's windy, you feel like you have frostbite. Your hands are really cold. Imagine just moving them, pressing on buttons. Like, it's incredibly uncomfortable. It's a little chill in my basement, but I was like, this is a little weird, I guess. Maybe I just have really bad circulation, which that is inexorably the conclusion I came to. But I look it up. I'm just like, why do I always have cold hands while playing the piano? It sort of makes sense, but still, I just wanted to look it up. I go to this article and it was like, oh yeah, one of the main reasons is, well, wherever you are, it's cold and tension. I'm like, tension? Okay. Yeah, tension is the root of everything bad in music and in life. Wow. Tension. Okay. So I work on loosening up my hands, loosening up my body, taking deep breaths, doing yoga. But I just think it's so fascinating. The article is talking about doing these stretches before you play so you will have a more relaxed body, which will then relax your mind, which will then relax your body. Think back to a time that you were really, really stressed, just really, really stressed, and you had a lot of tension in your body because of that stress. And you have all this tension in your hands, and your hands inevitably they get cold. They can even get like cold, clammy. That's what they call it. Cold and just sweaty and cold sweat, just real uncomfortable stuff, right? And I just think it's so crazy. If you relax your mind, your body is gonna relax. But if you have a tense body, your mind's kind of just gonna. So I've kind of been working that recently. Not really for the cold hands on piano. That is not a big deal, really, at all. I haven't been playing piano for, in the grand scheme of things, very long. What's more important is saxophone, because I've somehow hardwired my body physically to just tense up while playing this instrument. And when you practice, like my goal right now is 2 hours a day. Usually I don't hit that recently. January was, as I've said earlier, February is just a dumb month. I'm pretty sure it's the shortest month of all the months in a year. But February hasn't been so good for practicing. But still, doing anything for long periods of time, you want to be relaxed, and it's just hard when there's so much tension. I know Ben Wendell, he's a saxophonist, he releases the tension by every 20 or 30 minutes, gets up, stretches, does some of these arm stretches, sit-ups, push-ups, get the blood flowing, get the neck pain away. So then he just removes the tension from his back, because that tension is going to very much directly impact your hands, which will then affect your playing, which will then affect your mindset about yourself. And because you're bad at the music, because you're so tense, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, my self-worth is gone, because my self-worth is entirely dependent on my ability to play music. Some people might be like, oh, Henry, come on, you're being facetious. Come on. Well, I know plenty of musicians are like, my self-worth is sure not entirely dependent on music, but largely dependent on music. My saxophone teacher, Jory Wittes. Oh, here's a fun. Jory Wittes. You want to check him out? Here's a video of his. Boom, go. So this was obviously when that Bernie Sanders meme was a thing, which is somewhat recent. He posted this video the day that was getting big, and wow, he is famous on Facebook now. But he's a full-time gigging jazz musician in New Orleans. So, if that's not the jazz musician life, I don't know what is, because that just is the jazz musician life. Jory, he was talking about earlier, few weeks ago at one of my saxophone lessons. Not sex lessons, saxophone lessons. Everyone thinks I say sex lessons. No, it's sax. Sex, sax. They are two different words. One has an A, one has an E. That he just had to take a break from the saxophone because he just has kind of a traumatic, relationship with it. And, that's about all. That's his story to tell. I don't, I guess somewhat personal information. But it's just critique after critique and always practicing but never being good enough. That will, no matter what, that's going to impact your self-worth. It makes sense why so many musicians, why that's just how that works, because you're always being critiqued and you always feel like you're never good enough. At least that's somewhat how I feel. I don't know if there's a musician that's like, I am good enough. I don't think that exists. The pursuit of knowledge and refining your skills is a never-ending pursuit. You are never good enough. But when people are telling you, you have to accept that that's okay. And that is hard because you want to be better than what you are. Which then impacts your self-worth, and because you're like, oh, but I'm not. And that was a little saxophone tangent, or just music tangent in general. I just think that's and I've heard other people in my high school band, and you might be like, high school band? Well, no one's real musicians. Someone who I know and I'm friends with got a full ride to Berkeley. Full ride scholarship, completely paid to Berkeley. If you don't know what Berkeley is, well, it's just an incredibly expensive and prestigious school of music. Regarded, Berkeley's up there with Juilliard. One of the best in probably the world, frankly. So, yeah, just because it's a high school student doesn't mean that their opinions are like, oh, well, they're a high schooler. No, I've heard it a lot. People struggle with self-worth who are musicians because of music. But no one ever said going into music was easy. No one once has ever said that. No one in the history of the world. It's fun, but yeah, it's a grind. It's a grind. That'll segue, the word grind, that'll segue into, sorry, oh, yeah, solo and ensemble. That's the thing my school does. I don't know if every school in America does that or what, but I get a solo piece for alto saxophone ready, and I play it, and then it gets sent to a judge at the end of the month, and the judge listens to it, or multiple judges listen to it, and give me critique and give me a score, and if it's a certain number or higher, then I get to go to state, and then just do it again or play a new piece and really, really just refine it. And I learned about this today, and it's a little sad, but it's the year 2021. It is no surprise hearing that. Well, solo and ensemble this year. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, guys, but it is in fact going to be online. Womp, 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 but I expected that. I my big thing was, is this even going to happen? And auditioning for things I just keep doing it because I need to eventually get into something, right? I tried to do all state, just normal all state, and either I got mono or COVID halfway through. I think I got mono, And if you want to hear my story about mono and how it ruined, okay, I'm being over dramatic, kind of somewhat ruined a part of my life for a chunk of time. The time of being sick and the like chronic fatigue that happens after it, that was rough. But so I wasn't able to do that even though I worked really hard on it before. I just, you can't practice while being sick. That's just impossible. And then Allstate Jazz Band. And if you are watching this on YouTube, you can click my channel and see UME a Allstate Jazz Band 2021. Which I also worked pretty hard on. Yeah, I spent a good time on that. I spent, like 30 minutes every day probably working on that. In the audition, I knew that wasn't the best I could do, but it was the day of, I had to get it in by freaking midnight. The rhythms, there's some really sloppy rhythms in the Take the Adrian A2 that's played first. I was like, I thought it was pretty good. I thought the camera was great. I was out of focus for it. And the audio was like, I thought it sounded good. The audio was mixed well. But the date for when they say when they email who made it in, when they email the people that made it in, it comes around and I don't get email. I was just like, well, it is 2 alto saxophones in the entire state. I guess I'm not surprised, but also just like, geez. So now I have to do this. Not I have to, I was going to do this whether I got into All-State Jazz or not. But this is nice. Solo and ensemble. Because you get critique. Whether you keep going or not, you get critique. And that's what's important. It's growing as a musician. It's not getting the part. Like, that is incredibly important. That kind of is the end goal. But the journey, that's what matters. In like music. Because there is no end goal, right? That's the gist. But, wow. Do I have anything to talk about? I'm really tired, so I'll probably have to wrap up this podcast because I'm starting to get into a bit of a just sludge where I'm just like, ugh. Might have noticed I've been closing my eyes. I don't know, I'm really tired right now. Just kind of hit me. So yeah, I think this is going to be my goodbye. Bit of a pretty simple episode. I'm going to try and get some more segments onto the show. We're still just building the show from ground up, and it will just get better and better. And if you have any critiques, say them in the comments. I guess I'll take them with a grain of salt, because don't listen to someone who you wouldn't go to for criticism. That's sometimes how I live. But YouTube comments are definitely not like the place for prime criticism. But if you have a criticism, tell me or email me at doublewongwing@gmail.com, or DM me, or somehow contact me with your complaint. I will say I got too drowsy at the end of the show, so I guess that's on getting bad sleep. I went to bed last night and I have to wake up at 6:45, so yeah, we're running on 6 hours and 45 minutes of sleep. That's not super healthy as a growing teenage boy, but who really cares? So long. Farewell. And thanks for all the fish. Bye. Sync. Hello. Okay. Now the audio. This freaking saint. Thank you. You're welcome.